ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont. And boy, do I have another story for you. Before I get into this, I've only read the headline, haven't delved into the story as per usual. I do want to say I am a huge Wheel of Time fan. I've read the series at least 5 times all the way through, and I've read the first. I think when did I join? I joined by the sixth book, right when the sixth book had come out. I hadn't touched Wheel of Time until book six was out, and then one of my friends told me it's one of the best series ever. You got to read it. So I started reading it, and yeah, they're right. It's one of the best fantasy series ever created. It's up there with Tolkien. Yeah, there I said it. Um, it was a planned 12 book series, and Robert Jordan died before he could finish the 12th book. So his notes for the 12th book were given to another popular fantasy writer named Brandon Sanderson. And he finished the series, but he was unable to do what Robert Jordan did. He couldn't make it one book. He couldn't make it two. He had to do three. So the series went 12, 13, and 14 is how it ended instead of just 12. And book 12, in my opinion, almost completely ruined the entire series. The change of pace, the change in writing style, the change in um, everything, character interactions, dialogue. Brandon Sanderson's writing style was so different. Energy saver. Hang on a second. His writing style was so different from Robert Jordan's that it made it very difficult to get to the 12th book. The 13th book, he had kind of gotten into the groove and shifted away from his style a little bit and gotten more towards Robert Jordan. And the 14th book, he did a little bit more of a shift towards Robert Jordan and away from himself. But the issue is, I want to see the original notes. I want Robert Jordan's original notes on the series, how it was supposed to end, because I feel like Brandon took a lot of liberties and made a lot of changes and altered characters' motivations in a way that they probably weren't intended to. But, without seeing those notes, it's impossible for me to actually know that. I just have read that series enough that it felt different. It felt like it ended the way it wasn't supposed to. And I've never actually read any of Brandon Sanderson's independent novels or his works, and I probably never will, just because I didn't like his writing style. I didn't like his well, that's it. I didn't like his writing style. We'll just leave it at that. I don't know. A lot of people love his stuff, but I don't know if I would. But I saw this headline. Where's this from? IGN. Brandon Sanderson says the Wheel of Time fandom deserved better than a cancellation after the best season, as over 120,000 fans desperate for season four signed petition. I won't miss being largely ignored. Listen, the Wheel of Time fans deserved a better series, period. End of discussion. You can stop the sentence right there. They completely ruined Wheel of Time in every fucking way they could possibly do. Right? When you make the small English style hamlet village of the two rivers look like modern day London, you fucked up. Okay? You fucked up big time. Right? Their entire driving plot point for one of the main characters, Randolph Thor, is that he looks so different from everybody else in the village because else in the village looked similar. They were all pale skinned, dark eyed, dark haired people. There were a few with some light eyes, but for the most part, they all had brown eyes and brown hair, pale skin. And this is why Rand al'Thor stuck out so much, and why Tam al'Thor, Rand's father, um, seemed like an oddity when he came home with a fucking redhead wife. Redhead, blue-eyed wife, and a redhead, blue-eyed child that he met when he went on an adventure to become a sword master. It was so out of place that people were like, "Oh, this is unusual. And Rand stands out whenever anybody would visit. The few times they'd visit, because they'd see him, they'd be like, "Hey, what's that guy doing here? Everybody else looks like this, but that guy looks different." The series completely threw that out the window and just changed everything up. I'm genuinely surprised they made Elaine look like the way they did. But one day, I promise, I will make it through the first episode and do a review. But I couldn't make it through 15 minutes. I thought I'd made it through half of the episode, but when I went back and looked at the runtime on what I had watched on Amazon Prime, it was 15 minutes before I had to bow out because I was so enraged at how many changes were made in the series that I couldn't even finish watching it. But yeah, and then right, I'm this is going to be a rant, by the way. I should have prefaced this. This is a ranting episode. The best season? Maybe, I don't know. I didn't make it past the first episode. You tell me 3 was the best season? I doubt it. I have serious doubts. And 120,000 fans is not enough to save anything. You want to save something, you're gonna need 10 times this many people, right? Yeah, put a 1 and 2 zeros in front of that, and then we can talk. No, I'm joking. Bender joke. But yeah, if they added another 0 at the end of this, 1.2 million fans, then yeah, if 1.2 million people cared about this show, they'd still be making it. But 120,000 people willing to sign a petition, and that's like fervent people. Those are people that want it to happen, getting other people to sign it, pushing the thing out there, getting the petition to go, which cracks me up because petitions don't do anything. Petition just says, "Hey, we think this." Nobody has to honor a petition. Nobody is required to fulfill the promise of a petition. No one, never. A petition just says, "This is what we want. Here's how many people want it." And if you're not getting at least the bottom of the barrel is 1 million. If you can get 10 million, you're probably going to get your wish because the studio is going to go, well, if 10 million people are willing to watch it, we can make some money off of advertisement. 1 million would be the baseline though. 100,000, 120,000, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. You're not getting any attention. But let's see what this article has to say. The Wheel of Time seems dead in the water after Amazon's cancellation of the Prime Video series following the conclusion of season 3, and a new report that claims it's not being shopped around to streamers. Yeah, who can afford to make this show? The only way this show goes forward, the only way this show not even this show, the only way the Wheel of Time succeeds as an adaptation is if it's animated and it remains true to the source material. Now, what I see? I want to see a true adaptation of the novel series in in animation, and I want it done by the Samurai Jack studio. Those guys nailed Star Wars with the micro series. I think they could nail Wheel of Time. That's just my opinion on the matter, though. Where was I? Shopped around to streamers. On top of that, Brandon Sanderson, who finished author Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series, had some choice words for people making decisions. Last month, it emerged that the Prime Video had decided against renewing the Wheel of Time for season 4 after what Deadline reported were lengthy deliberations. Apparently, executives liked the show but couldn't make it work financially. Yeah, if your show doesn't make money, it's not going to keep getting made. That's everything. Anything that requires a huge investment, if there's not a return on the investment, it ends. Done. That's just economics. Uh, the Wheel of Time is an adaptation of the much loved fantasy book series by the same name by Robert Jordan, with a cast led by Rosamund Pike. I have a problem with that. One of the key defining characteristics of Moraine is her height and how tiny she was, and how her appearance made her unassuming, and which is why when she's one of the most powerful people in the world, it caught people off guard. After a shaky first 2 seasons that had fans of the books in an uproar over controversial changes from the source material, no shit. Season 3 appeared to win over the fan base, and it was felt set up the show for even better things to come. It did not win over the fan base. It won over 120,000 people who were fans of the show that probably had never even read Wheel of Time. If you took the poster for the original poster, let's look at it. Um, Original Amazon poster for Wheel of Time. Yeah, this right here. Where's open image? They keep moving this shit around on me. If I showed you this, we took the wheel of time off there, and I just showed you this right here, you would not be able to tell me what this was. You would not be able to tell me what story or what series this was based on. If I just took that image right there and posted it, people would go, generic fantasy story. None of the characters, so Matt, maybe, right? Matt and Rand, you could probably say, yeah, they kind of look like that. Rand, it's going to be hard to get, just yet. You need a pale redhead who's tall and, what is it, wiry, muscly. He's pretty fit. They're all pretty fit because they grew up in the fucking woods and fields on a mountainside. But Rand and Matt, pretty on point. Moraine, she's just too tall. That's my biggest qualm, and her hair isn't red enough. Um, Lan, yeah, I'll say Lan's pretty decently. I pictured him being more Korean looking than Japanese, but his character is just kind of described as just, samurai-esque pseudo Asian guy. But Lan, so you get three out of the seven characters here somewhat fit their descriptions. Two of them pretty spot on. But Perrin, nah, nothing. Nynaeve and not Elaine. Hold on. Egwene, no. No, I just don't see it. But yeah, if I showed you that and I was like, hey, tell me what series this is. No one's gonna say the Wheel of Time. There's nothing about this that sells the Wheel of Time to me. Right? If you want to show a sword, better have a heron on it. That's the only thing that would give it away, but this just looks like a generic fantasy. And that was my biggest problem with it, is they took what was identifiable about the show and just excised it completely. All right. However, it seems that the Wheel of Time cost too much for co-producers Sony Pictures TV and Amazon MGM Studios, the latter of which also makes the super expensive Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. As Deadline put it, the season 3 overall performance was not strong enough compared to the show's cost for Prime Video to commit to another season, and the streamer could not make it work after examining different scenarios and following discussions with lead studio Sony TV, sources said. Let's start with Sanderson's comments on the cancellation made in the comment of a recent video published to his YouTube channel. I wasn't really involved, he began. Don't know anything more than what is public. They told me they were renegotiating and thought it would work out. Then I heard nothing for 2 months, then learned this from the news like everyone else. I don't think it's a shame, or I do think it's a shame, as while I had my problems with the show, it had a fan base who deserved better than a cancellation after the best season. I won't miss being largely ignored. They wanted my name on it for legitimacy, but not to involve me in any meaningful way. Then you should have told them to keep your name off of it. If they're not going to involve you, don't let them put your name on it because it's not your series. You wrote 3 out of 14 books and you were supposed to write 1 out of 12. That was originally the plan. You couldn't hack it. So you turned it into 14, turn it to 12, 13, and 14. And yeah, I might have to do a breakdown of this entire series, but we'll see. Clearly, Sanderson was less than impressed with the show's decision makers, but he acknowledged the frustration among fans who had seen a clear improvement season to season and who had hoped to see the story continue. Yeah, but you had massive fan drop off from season to season. So now on to a new report that claims the Wheel of Time isn't being shopped around to other streamers. TV Line said its well-placed sources confirmed the news that it's sure to disappoint fans who'd hoped for season 4 at least. Meanwhile, over 120,000 fans have signed an online petition to save the Wheel of Time, finish the story. Finish the story. The organizers of the petition say on their website it deserves to be told in full. Yeah, 14 novels. Um, were they conquering a novel per season? Because at best, you're looking at 14 seasons which is 14 years. And even if you could convince the actors to sign a contract that says you will be exclusive to this series for the next 14 years of your life, you're going to see a dramatic aging happen that doesn't happen in the novels. That's why this needs to be in another medium like animated. You could theoretically do a live action version, but you would have to do a massive crunch. It would have to be streamlined and chopped down to an extent that it would be rushed, and you'd have to film like 3 seasons back to back to back, and, do, like, 3 seasons or 3 novels back to back to back, maybe take a break of 6 to 8 months, then the next 3 back to back to back, and in that fashion, so you could knock this thing out in 5 years, so your characters don't age up too much. But you're looking at, like, impossible filming schedules for this kinda thing. Like, how old would they have looked at the end of, like, the 14th season? Right, think about it. If they film it 1 every year and it comes out, you're still looking at 14 years. That's a lifetime for some people. That's half of a normal lifetime. Let's say every 30 years is a full lifetime for you. You've lived a whole lifetime in 30 years. You lived a whole lifetime in 20 years if you think about it, especially after the age of 20. Every 20 years, you've done so much shit in your life that you've lived a lifetime's worth of experiences. But told in full? That's such a bold claim. I don't know. Was it increasing at a breakneck speed to tell the story? Like this could be book 2. I don't know what they're showing there. Um, where was I? Told in full, told in full. It's increasingly likely those pleas will fall on deaf ears. Some fans hope Apple, which has form when it comes to glossy sci-fi and fantasy shows that cost huge amounts of money to make, may pick up the wheel of time for Apple TV Plus, but given the state of the shows already has on its books, that is perhaps wishful thinking. Yeah, how many shows does Apple TV even have? A ton, right? Whatever. So this Wheel of Time adaptation does indeed look like it's out of time, and yet another disappointing attempt to adapt what many consider to be the greatest fantasy novel series ever written. I would agree with that statement though. Greatest fantasy series ever written? Yeah, especially extensive fantasy series because it's, 14 books. And the first 11 are superb. 12, 13, and 14, not as much, but again, you're dealing with a different author with a different pace, different tone, different style. It took a lot to get used to, and book 12 almost stopped me from reading. Uh, I just couldn't. I was too invested. But if you ever do pick up the series and decide to read it, when you hit book 12, just be warned, there's going to be a dramatic change of pace, change of tone, change of writing style. Characters, interactions, and motivations are going to feel different because they kind of are. But yeah, no offense or all offense intended. I don't know. Screw you, Brandon Sanderson. You don't know what you're talking about. 120,000 people will never be enough for a TV series to continue ever in any market anywhere. Maybe 120,000 people for a YouTube channel. Because if all 120,000 people show up, the YouTube channel will actually have a viable enough audience to continue working. But even then, they would all have to watch every episode to hit numbers large enough to draw ad revenue. And I don't know. I don't understand the marketplace of YouTube enough to know if that's even enough to sustain the channel. But there you have it. Brandon Sanderson's take on it and my take on it. That's all I have for this story. This is your host, Belmont, signing out.